Texas A&M firing Jimbo Fisher on Sunday. This despite a monster $77 million buyout. Aggies AD Ross Bjork releasing this statement saying, quote, "After very careful analysis of all the components related to Texas A&M football, I recommended to President Mark Welsh and then Chancellor John Sharp that a change in leadership of the program was necessary in order for Aggie football to reach our full potential, and they accepted my decision. We appreciate Coach Fisher's time here at Texas A&M, and we wish him the best in his future endeavors." So let's head to College Station to get the latest on the Texas A&M coaching situation. Welcome in our friend Mike Roach of Gig'em 24/7. Mike, it's not a total shock. The idea of Jimbo Fisher being fired has been floated around for a while now, but it eventually comes after a big home win. So how much of a surprise maybe was the timing of this move?
I think everybody knew Jimbo Fisher was on the hot seat going into the season after a 5-7 year last year. But the timing was certainly odd, especially after a gigantic win over Mississippi State, 51-10 at home in College Station in front of a lot of recruits. But I would commend the A&M program and the A&M brass for having the courage to make that move, even with the buyout in their face, knowing that they weren't getting what they were paying for in Jimbo Fisher and the results on the field. So certainly the timing was odd, but I don't think anybody would have been surprised had they made this move after the season.
Timing is everything, Mike, and now all eyes are on some of the top commits in Texas A&M's recruiting class. Who are some players you would think are going to be attractive or going to be fielding a lot of phone calls from other coaches as we approach that signing day in December?
Well, one thing that Jimbo Fisher did really well was recruit. He had a good class put together this year as well. So there's a lot of really good players in there when you talk about a 5-star wide receiver in Cam Coleman, who Texas A&M was already doing battle with schools like Auburn for. Where you talk about Terry Bussey, a 5-star out of East Texas at Timpson High School, who committed to them over Oklahoma, over LSU, over Texas. I would expect all three of those schools to maybe try to get back in the race there. Anthony Smith, a linebacker, lower ranked in their class, but a good player out of Jasper, Texas and Southeast Texas. He's a guy that Texas and USC battled Texas A&M for all the way down to the wire. So I think those are, everybody's on watch at this point. Every time a job opens, I think it's kind of open season on those commits, and it's up to the staff that's currently in place to keep them committed.
So now Elijah Robinson will take over as the interim head coach, and he has a great reputation on the recruiting trail, but how much of an impact can he have on the Aggies' ability to retain the top commits in this top 10 class in 2024?
If there's a guy to do it on the staff, it is Elijah Robinson. We're talking about one of the elite recruiters in the country, has probably amassed some of the best defensive line talent over the last couple of years that there is in college football. He's a personable guy. He's well-liked. Families, recruits love him. Coaches love him. He's just kind of a guy that gets it and a guy that you could see as a future head coach in college football. So I think if they do have a chance to do so, Elijah Robinson is certainly the guy to do it. He's just got to kind of keep everybody together until they figure out a replacement and continue to preach a positive message. There's a reason why you guys committed here. And I think that they've got to instill that faith in the administration going forward.
Mike, you wrote a great story over at 247sports.com earlier this morning. I encourage all our viewers to go check it out, about how some high school coaches in the state of Texas had grown a bit jaded with Jimbo Fisher. One of the reasons being that he did not make it over to the Texas High School Association Coaches Convention this past summer. So what will this new coach have to do to get back with good graces in terms of bringing the Aggies and bringing them to the forefront of some of the coaches in the Lone Star State?
The Texas High School Coaches Association is one of the most powerful coaches associations in the country. It's a very large group. At this year's convention, there were over 16,000 coaches in attendance. And so what you do when you have to coach at Texas, you've got to follow a few steps. You have to go pay tribute a little bit. Most head coaches, when they're hired in a new job in Texas, you will see them within the first few days of their tenure make the trip to San Marcos, where the THSCA offices are, and go speak to the executive director and the president of the association. It's all about relationships in this state. It's a large emphasis on public schools and the coaches being involved at those schools. So it's not a difficult transition. I think Steve Sarkisian came into the exact same situation when he took the Texas job, where coaches had kind of soured on Texas when Tom Herman was there. I think Steve Sarkisian did a great job right off the bat. He hired a former Texas high school coach in Chris Gilbert to be his director of high school relations. He made sure he was talking every day to a high school coach or two high school coaches and just building those relationships. I don't think it's difficult to do, but I just think it's going to take some time and some effort to mend it.
It's one thing to be in the state of Texas, but you got to take advantage of those relationships and pounce on some of those top targets. Mike, thank you so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate it. We know you are all over this story, and if you want to read more about it, you can check out his work at Gig'em 24/7. If you need to know anything about this coaching search, this is your place. You can read up on potential targets. You can read the story that Blair mentioned. Of course, next steps on all of this. You can find it all at Gig'em247.com. So outside of who they're going to hire, the biggest question mark surrounding the A&M vacancy is what happens to this talented roster? And lucky for us, we have a former GM here in the building, Smoke Dixon, to help us walk through all of this. So Smoke, we'll start with just overall, what should the strategy be when it comes to roster retention?
Well, first and foremost, header boy. Good way to get Jimbo out of here at the right time. But keeping this roster together, the first thing if I'm Elijah Robinson, what I'm doing is I have to find out who those leaders are. And before I get to my first staff meeting or the first team meeting, what I'm doing is getting those 4 to 5 guys together and say, listen, fellas, this is what it is. These are the cards that we've been dealt, and this is how we're going to play it out. Then you find out who's on your staff that's willing to go in that fight with you, because what's happening right now is everyone's looking for a job. So those 2 to 3 guys that you know that you've gone to work with and are willing to fight with you, those are the 2 guys that you use to galvanize and retain the rest of this roster, because you have to build it from the locker room, and then from the locker room you got to get into those meeting rooms to get what you want to get across to your team moving forward.
Let's go back inside that building. I mean, what do things look like for these coaches and staff that have to finish the year amid a lot of uncertainty, not just with the program that they're currently in, but what happens next for them individually?
Well, I know what's not going on. There's not a lot of coaching going on because those coaches are now looking for jobs. So the number one thing that they're working right now is their cell phones.
Yeah.
Because for some coaches, their contracts are going to run out at the end of this year. And now they're looking to see, when is the moving truck going to pull up? What are we going to do with our families? And what's the next job opportunities for us moving forward?
Yeah, so there's the staff side of it, there's the coaching side of it, but the player side. If I'm an Aggie player right now, what should I be doing to prepare myself for the future?
Well, I would always tell the players, just relax. Like, just breathe in real easy and let everything die down. Because at the end of the day, the next coach that's coming in might be the best coach for you. But on the flip side of it, there are 2 to 3 players on this team right now that everyone's going after. Yeah. And they have to now make the best business decision for themselves moving forward. But the guys that are on the 2nd and the 3 deep, it's not the time to start hitting that portal button, because you don't have any reps, you don't have any film, you don't have anything out there. So you can wait until the 2nd portal window if you choose to go in there, if you and the coach that they brought in aren't connecting at that point.
So if the coaches and the staff are worrying about what's next for them, if the players are then worrying about what's next for them, whose job is it on the staff right now to keep those players in College Station?
Well, there's one guy, and he's the only one that really has a job moving forward, and that's Elijah Robinson. Phenomenal recruiter. And when you have 3 other coaches that's on the staff that are former head coaches that you did not appoint as an interim head coach, you have to read the writings on the wall. You aren't going to be there. And there's guys that came in with Jimbo that are Jimbo guys. And if you want to start all over from the beginning, you have to remove Jimbo's guys out of the building and keep that 1 or 2 of the staff members in the building that's going to retain that signing class coming in, and also the retention of the players that are there now. But Elijah Robinson moving forward is the only one that I see that has a job right now.
Yeah. He's got a big one too.
Great job.
Tough job for him. We all remember that Nick Saban made sure that we knew that this was a well-paid roster. But in all seriousness, how does NIL impact their efforts to try to retain the talent that they have on staff?
Well, a lot of us that looked at the structure of the NIL a few years ago looked at Texas A&M and just said, what in the hell are you guys doing? Because you're overpaying a lot of players And the current scale that you have it at, it's not going to last. So right now, whoever's coming in, they have to now evaluate that roster and see if and who's getting paid and how much they're getting paid. But in a grand scheme of things, NIL deals are month to month anyway. So you can get out of them and get in them as fast as you want to. But you got to go in and restructure that entire building in terms of NIL market because it's getting overpaid. And that's why you see a lot of kids getting in, out, and moving around. And at the end of the day, a lot of these A&M kids that want to stay are getting paid well enough to stay. So I don't know if a lot of movement's going to happen in that space with Texas A&M.
So while they prioritize, they make their list of who they need to pay, who they're okay with potentially losing. In your eyes, who's the one player that Texas A&M absolutely has to keep?
Walter Nolan. He is a big-time defensive lineman that's effective in the run game and the passing game. And this is a 5-star. So whoever's coming in, they need to sit back and like, hey, listen, we have a guy right here that we can build around, that can impact this game at a high level. Walter Nolan will be my guy moving forward.
Whew. Hopefully they keep more than just him, but man, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this roster. And thank you so much for breaking all of that down for us because it's chaos in that building right now. And so we appreciate you taking us inside there.
Phones are working. People looking for jobs.
Phones are certainly working. Smoke, thank you so much for being here. Hey, mark your calendars because we're going to have a busy couple of months here on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. We are your headquarters for all things portal and recruiting related. It's about to be just a nuts December of all the roster movements. So tune in to our Transfer Portal Palooza show on December 4th and our all-day National Signing Day coverage on December 20th.